Hey friends, and welcome back to another What I Eat in a Week. I'm still doing my project pantry, so this week will be all about trying to use up things that are in my cupboard, making some new recipes, doing a little bit of meal prep, and generally just trying to eat within our budget for the month. We're doing a no buy October, so we're really trying to make sure we're using what we already have, making sure no food goes to waste, and also just trying to be a little experimental and try some new recipes whilst also just being conscious of our budget. If you're new here, my name is Imi, and I talk about all things to do with food, hobbies, sustainability, saving money, and quite a few video essays. So if any of that is interesting to you, feel free to subscribe, and if you like the video, please do give it a like because it really helps to support my channel. Okay, grab a cup of tea and let's get into it. Good morning, welcome back to another video. Does anyone else get really excited when they have the whole place to themselves? It's gonna be a good day. I'm gonna do some boring things like go to the gym. I've been very consistent with my workouts, which has been really good. I'm also gonna clean the kitchen. My husband has been doing all the cleaning recently, but really because it's Saturday, I'm gonna knit for most of the day. I can't remember the last time I spent like multiple hours just knitting, and I'm really excited to just kind of get a little cozy, try and get a lot of the way through some of my projects so I don't know, I feel like because I have so many projects on right now, I'm just not finishing anything. I just like bopping between them because I'm getting bored. I don't know. But either way, we're doing a What I Eat in a Week. We're going to be doing Project Pantry. We're going to be eating on a budget. We're trying not to go to the shop as much as possible. I've already had a coffee today. I think I might just have a banana before I go to the gym and that's it. Or maybe an apple actually. I really find it hard to eat before I go to the gym, but then also at the same time, if I don't eat, then I don't perform as well. So I'm gonna have an apple. After I got back to the gym, I decided to make myself a protein smoothie or shake. I always put bananas in the freezer when they're starting to get a little bit too ripe so that they don't go off and they don't go to waste, because I will always use them in my protein smoothies. I also really don't like the protein powders that we have at the moment, so honestly we're just trying to get through them because we spent money on it, we don't want them to go to waste, and we're not going to buy another one until this one has been used. I had a shower and then I got cleaning the kitchen. As part of my cleaning of the kitchen, obviously I put everything away, cleaned the surfaces and swept the floor and all that kind of stuff, and swept the oven, or cleaned the oven rather. And then I actually went through my whole fridge to make sure that there was nothing going to waste in there, and then I cleaned all the shelves. And when I do this, it really helps me to have a better idea of what food is in there, because I was going to go for a shop I think soon. So being able to clean the fridge, make sure that, also the surfaces are just clean so that when I put stuff straight in there like apples, they're not going to get dirty, or I don't know. Just keeping a good clean space in the fridge has been really helpful for making sure I know what's in there, what we can make food from, and what needs to be eaten first. I can then also prioritize what's in there to make sure I'm putting the things that need to be eaten first closer to the front of the fridge. These potatoes are a perfect example of something that needed to be eaten because they were starting to go a little bit soft. So I just baked them in the oven, and I had them with some meal prepped ragu that I had made in my prepping for autumn video. Later on, we found some cookie dough in the freezer that we'd actually made maybe a month or so ago that we'd completely forgotten about, that we put in the freezer because we just had way too much. And we got very excited, especially because we're doing a no buy. We're trying not to buy anything that's not, no treats and things like that would be just a bit more expensive for this month. So we made quite a few of these cookies. I ended up having a yogurt, an oat milk yogurt, for trying to pretend like I was going to have some semblance of a normal dinner. But then I had these cookies, and honestly I was still full from my lunch, so I skipped straight ahead to breakfast the next day, where again Project Pantry is in full swing, using up my oats, raisins, flax meal, and anything else I can kind of throw in there that is good but also just needs to be eaten and has been in there for a little bit too long. So I'm really trying to focus on those items. I know I've talked about these items in quite a few of my Project Pantry videos, but I just want to show you that consistency of how I'm actually really trying to use up these products. I'm not just picking at random things out of the cupboard and saying, oh, I should probably eat this. Like, I've almost finished my raisins, which is really great. The flax meal is going to take a long time because I feel like it's still a waste if I'm really trying to shove a lot of this stuff down. But I found just being very conscious about it and adding a little bit of, half a teaspoon here, a teaspoon there. It's really made a difference to the actual food that's in the cupboards and how much there is. But then also it's adding different kind of nutrition to my meals, which I think is a really, really good thing. For dinner, I ended up making a tofu meatball korma. I've made this recipe a few times before, but I had some breadcrumbs that have just been, again, sitting in the cupboard, and I knew that they would go into this. And I also had a lot of the other ingredients that would go into the sauce, so I thought it was just a perfect recipe to put together for dinner, especially since it was a Sunday evening, so I had a little bit more time and flexibility to make something just a little bit more fun and experimental, and then we'd have leftovers for the next day as well. It's funny because sometimes I get really excited to meal prep and meal plan, and other days I can't be bothered, and I really find it to be so laborious. But I always appreciate it when I go to that effort, because it will always mean that I save money, and when I go to the shop I just won't impulse buy, which is something I am prone to doing, especially because I feel like going to the shop is so boring now that I deserve a small treat, no matter how small, for going and doing the chores, which I know is silly, but I think sometimes it's nice to just reward yourself for doing things that mentally can be quite taxing. Going with a list has really helped me to just get the stuff that I need, the nice meal that I planned for. In the morning, I woke up pretty early because my sourdough starter was finally in a good place, so I decided to make some sourdough, and I've been changing up my recipe a little bit to be more heavily weighted on the wholemeal side, so it's kind of like 50-50 now, whereas before it would be about 750 grams of white flour and then only 150 grams of wholemeal or whole wheat. But now I'm really enjoying the 50-50, and I really think that it gives much more flavor. I think wholemeal adds so much more flavor to a bread. Good morning. I have just made some sourdough, or I've got the whole process of making the sourdough dough ready. My sourdough starter, as per usual, has been a little bit fickle, finicky, whatever, but because it's quite cold now, like cold in the house in the mornings and overnight, I decided to try something different where I fed it quite a lot last night just before I went to bed, and it was perfectly bubbly and tripled in size by this morning, so I didn't have to feed the starter and then wait for it, because I think it's going to take a lot longer for it to rise now that it's cold. But it did rain all last night, which is why I think it might be particularly cold today. I think we might get some warmer temperatures. But anyway, I got my bread proofing box out for the first time in like 5 months, I think. So I put it in there to proof for a few hours. I got distracted and spent quite a long time editing a reel to go up on Instagram. I have been posting very much on there, but I'm trying to get back into it because YouTube has been my priority and will remain my priority. I've really enjoyed much more frequent uploads, and it's been so nice to see you all in the comments, particularly saying that you're liking the more regular uploads, so thank you for that feedback. It definitely has motivated me and made me feel really good about the fact that I am uploading more and this is being my priority. But yeah, I was just having fun editing a short video that was kind of about one girl and 10 obsessions. I also put it up on Shorts, and it's just talking about basically all the hobbies I've been doing. If you didn't know, I'm doing a no buy October, and I ended up cancelling all of my subscriptions except for one, so I don't have access to watching any kind of TV. So in the evenings I've been doing a 30-day challenge where I will draw every day for 30 days, and I'm basically taking a class every day learning how to layer with colour. So it's not really using pencil, you use a pencil, kind of a little bit of an outline, and then you colour. Anyway, I'm making a whole video about that, so that will come, but I'm about to head to the gym, and then when I get back I'm going to make some food. I just had half an apple, it's not really very much, and I did drag this out by editing that reel, so I'm going to be eating a little bit later than I wanted to, but that's fine. Heading to the gym now, and then I'll see you for breakfast. Breakfast was inevitably some more frozen bananas in my protein shake with some protein powder. I got pretty sick of these protein shakes, so I actually stopped drinking them this week and just took a little bit of a break, and I'll come back to them next week because, well, I didn't want them to go to waste, obviously, and they are helping, but sometimes when you get the ick, you know. I made sure to fold my sourdough, and then for lunch I just had some leftovers. Instead of potatoes this time, I had some pasta with my meal prepped ragu. Honestly, I'm so obsessed with this meal. I just can't get bored of it. I really can't. I don't think that I could ever get bored of this recipe because there are so many things that you can put it with. I had it with potatoes last time, having it with some pasta this time. I think my husband even had it with some rice last night. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things. I also like this for meal prep for camping as well because it's something super easy that you can heat up, especially if it's a cooler night. Honestly, it's perfect. Perfect. I've never actually tried to do the calculation of how much it makes or how much it costs to make sourdough at home, but I've recently found the bread flour that I really like. I think for half the price. It's like $8.99 for I think 2 kilograms. Which is amazing because I think at a normal supermarket I found it for like $15, so almost half price for that I think is pretty amazing. So I feel like making one loaf of sourdough genuinely must cost me less than $2, I think, which is wild because obviously I make such a big loaf and I usually freeze half of it. And I think if you go to a bakery, it costs like $10 maybe. And I don't buy bread from the supermarket anymore. So I definitely feel like, especially with increased food prices, that making bread at home, or at least making a sourdough at home, has saved me a lot of money. The next couple of days, I really tried to use up stuff, just bits like half a block of tofu and some leftover rice and some vegetables that needed eating. I just tried to make different meals with those for lunch, like stir fries and things like that. Also made my sourdough. And when I make sourdough bread, I honestly will just have a piece of it with some vegan butter, and that's my snack. It's so delicious and it's so hard not to eat so much of it because, especially when it's still a little bit warm, it just tastes absolutely amazing. And it also has a little bit of that kind of fresh, crunchy texture on the outside. Good morning. I've just been doing some planning for some meals for this week, and I've written myself a little list because we've basically eaten all the fresh food in the fridge, which is great. And we've been working through, again, still the stuff in the pantry for Project Pantry. We always try to prioritize the things that are either already in the pantry or have been bought more recently before thinking about making recipes that involve new items, just so that things don't get pushed at the back of the cupboard and forgotten about, because we hate waste and we hate food waste. So I've planned out 3 meals that we're going to make this week. One of them is the, unsurprisingly, Rainbow Plant Life vegan palak tofu or palak paneer. And I'm going to make a triple batch of this. I don't know why, we both have just been thinking about it for the last couple of days, and we're so excited to make it because we haven't made it for a while, because I think we made it quite a lot and then we're like, we need a break from this recipe. But now it's been long enough and it's cold-ish now, so, or cooler, the temps are cooler, so it kind of feels like the right time to make it. And I always like to make either a double or a triple batch of something so I can freeze some of it for the days where neither of us can be asked to make dinner or whatever. Another recipe I'm going to make, because we have quite a lot of black beans that I want to use, is another Rainbow Plant Life recipe from her cookbook. And it's just a kind of quite simple, like jammy, saucy beans, black beans in corn tortillas with like an avocado mash type thing. So quite simple, but that's what I want for some recipes. I know that I make quite a few complicated recipes, but I also end up eating rice and edamame beans because I can't be bothered to make something proper on other days. So I like to have a few recipes that are just, you know, easy to pull together. And the last thing is I'm going to get some lasagna sheets. I meal prepped in my preparing for autumn video a marinara sauce, and I used all of my San Marzanos from the garden, which was very exciting. So I have that in the freezer ready to go for the vegan lasagna that I'm going to make on Saturday. And we already have everything for the tofu ricotta that kind of goes in there. So I only need to get lasagna sheets and some frozen spinach. So really this list is not very long, which is good because we have so many of the ingredients for these in the pantry. So we're just getting a few fresh ingredients. And this helps to keep our fridge much tidier, the food eaten, and we're not spending extra money on food that we kind of fancy having but might end up going to waste or forgotten about. Or it might be one of those situations where I'm like making myself eat it because I don't want it to go to waste. So having a plan is definitely helping me. I do find it hard to have a plan all the time. It can be laborious sometimes, and sometimes it's just fine. But also I harvested so many cayenne peppers from the garden, so I think I'm also going to make a chili jam today. Today is very much a cooking day, a meal prepping day, so hopefully you'll enjoy watching today. Okay, as we're almost out of fresh food, I'm going to make porridge for breakfast. I think we have at least 1 apple left, so I'll have half of apple, and we have a few blueberries left. But really, it's the end of blueberry season, so sigh. Anyway, let's make some porridge and then I'll go shopping. I'm not sick of porridge yet, but I know that I will get sick of it maybe in a month or 2. So I'm gonna maybe think ahead and try to have a different breakfast maybe every few days or something like that. But for now, I'm really enjoying the kind of apple, oatmeal, cinnamon, all those kind of fall spices, or autumn spices rather, that they just feel really cozy, you know? I also finished all the oat milk yogurts that I had in the fridge. And again, I just tried to use up the vegetables we had and some tofu to make a very, very easy stir fry. I just tend to put in some soy sauce. If I can be bothered, I'll put some fresh garlic and ginger in there, but usually I can't. This was quite a heavy meal for me at lunchtime. I've actually tried to have less sort of pasta. Well, I say that. I am trying to have a little bit less pasta and rice in the middle of the day because it just makes me quite tired, to be honest. So I'm trying to have it more in the evening after I've been climbing and things like that. But we always have a little bit left over, so I just hate those things that go to waste. So I'm always trying to add them here and there to my lunch when I can. Anyway, I had my porridge and then I got on with making or meal prepping the palak tofu, and I made a triple batch as I said I would do before. And honestly, this recipe has now become so easy, and I don't think I even had to look at the recipe maybe more than once or twice just to make sure I was getting all the amounts right for the spices and the tofu and things like that. This recipe is on her website. If you haven't tried it by now and you like curries, I would so highly recommend it, especially as the weather is getting cooler. It's a really great recipe for meal prepping. I personally like it a lot because it makes me feel like we're having a more special meal or a takeaway, but we're just making the curry at home. It is a little bit more labor intensive at first when you're kind of getting to know the recipe, but honestly, it's really healthy, it's got really good ingredients, and it feels like a treat. So that's why we really love it. And sometimes we'll add more tofu than the recipe calls for because our palak is supposed to be more sauce than tofu. But we just like to, again, focus on getting enough protein so that we can build muscle in the gym and for climbing, whilst also having delicious meals. Oh, and one of the best things about this meal is I was able to use a bunch of serrano peppers that I had grown in the garden. That has been one of my biggest achievements this year, is being able to use so many things like the cayennes, the serranos, lots of jalapenos, and loads of tomatoes that I have grown myself. Oh, and some tomatillos too. I had palak tofu for a lot of my meals, and honestly just having a meal prepped meal in the fridge just makes me want to reach for it so much more often. I end up actually eating something proper rather than grabbing something here or there, or I only eat consistently and eat well if I have things that are prepped for me in the fridge. I'm so proud of myself and I'm so grateful for past Imi for making sure that future Imi didn't have to think about what she was going to eat in that moment, because I get a lot of decision fatigue, especially when I'm just really trying to make a lot of YouTube videos. I'm really trying to focus on my editing and researching for video essays and all that kind of stuff, and it just helps to have something already prepped. And then again, I made porridge in the morning. We're getting so close to using up some of the items, especially those raisins, which I'm really grateful for. And I also had some plant milk in the fridge that all got used up over these last couple of days, which is awesome. For the cayenne peppers, I decided to make a chili jam. I've never made a chili jam before, but I have made a sweet chili sauce, and I feel like they're very, very, very similar. I think for this, I followed a recipe kind of mostly. I added in way more chilies than the recipe called for because I had a load and I wanted to use them up. It wasn't too spicy, which was really great, but I definitely feel like perhaps there was just a little bit too much sugar in it. I know you need a lot of sugar to make jam, but I just get the sense that it was, I don't know, I could have used a little bit less, and so it was just a little bit less sweet. But all the flavors from the ginger and the garlic, they came through really, really nicely. Next time I'll definitely add in a few more different maybe sweet peppers or chilies just to add in some extra flavor, but this was really good, and I'm looking forward to kind of using it properly so I can see what it really tastes like in a proper meal context. The last recipe I ended up making for this day was actually a new recipe that I've never tried before. There were some plantains on offer, so I thought I would grab those. I had some black beans in the cupboards that really needed eating. And I also had some corn tortillas in the freezer, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to try a new recipe that I stumbled upon in Rainbow Plant Life's new cookbook, Big Vegan Flavor. Although I guess it's not that new anymore. But anyway, I thought it'd be really exciting to try something a little bit different. I like it when she asks you to char things like the poblano pepper and the tomatoes and jalapenos. It makes a big difference to the flavor. And I also just love those meals where you can kind of pack in what you want and people can mix and match with different things that are going to go in something. So I find that tacos tend to also be really good if you're trying to cater for quite a few different people and their kind of needs and what they want to eat. Okay, I'd say I've had quite a few Project Pantry wins this week. We've almost finished our oats. I've made a really big dent in our flax meal, which is great. I've been putting that in my porridge every morning. I'm just about to finish the raisins that we have. I have probably tomorrow's worth of porridge and then that will be done, which is exciting. I finished the rest of a jar of sugar for the chili jam. I'm interested to see how that turns out. Just from tasting it, I think it's a little sweeter than perhaps I would have made it, but I was following a kind of recipe. I just added in like 4 times the amount of chilies because these cayenne chilies, they actually weren't very spicy, the ones that I grew. So, but the taste was really nice. What else? Also for the last 2 weeks, we are quite considerably below our food budget because we're doing a no buy October and we're trying our best to only go to the shop once a week. So we kind of limit those impulse purchases and really try to plan ahead for what we're going to make that week. Sourdough starter is back up and running, so I can make sourdough, which is so much cheaper than buying it from the shop. But having said that, it is also a lot more effort, so it's kind of like the balance. And it's obviously much easier to do when you work from home or if you have a weekend free. I think those are probably the main wins from this Project Pantry week, but I'm feeling really good about our meal planning and our food shopping. I'm feeling very good about our budget this week, feeling very good about the things that we've managed to finish and prioritize, whilst also trying to try a few new recipes. That plantain recipe, I definitely should have added a bit more salt. I don't think I added enough. And I also didn't cook the sauce down for long enough, so it was a little less flavorful than it probably should have been, but I think that was my fault. That was really good though. I really enjoyed that meal. It was definitely nice to try something a little bit different, and also having so much palak tofu just meal prepped for the next however many meals is it feels good. I was worried about refreezing some of that tofu, so I decided not to put it in the freezer. So yeah, we will be eating that for the next however many days in a row, but I'm not mad about that. I also finished the rice actually, but I replaced the rice bag that we had, so I know that that's something that we'd like to replace, and I bought a 25-pound bag for $20, so hopefully we will not have to replace that anytime soon. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. If you are interested in watching ad-free and sponsorship-free content, I've now made a members page where basically all the same content is going there, but it's just ad-free and sponsorship-free, because I know some of you are really trying to avoid sponsorships, and I know that ads can be annoying, so I've put that out there. But also if you don't want to become a member and pay for that, all the same content is going to be here. It's just some will have sponsorships and they'll have ads in them. So I just wanted to let you know, just in case you were interested. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you very soon. As always, if there are any requests for different kinds of content or topics, please leave them in the comments below, because I'm going to start making content that is specifically requested by you. So if you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps to support my channel, and if you're not already subscribed, then please feel free to subscribe, but only if you want to. Okay, see you next time. Bye.